Yo, 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 what up, guys? We live here with DJC Combat. I said I'd go live like by the end of the week, but we're in the weekend. I was busy, got caught up in other stuff, school and life, but here we are. I got time on my hands now, and we're about a few hours away from the final fight card of the year going down, which is the Covington versus Buckley fight night. Looking forward to it, looking forward to the main event. What a year 2024 has been, because 2023 was already such like an amazing year for MMA. I did not think that 2023 could be topped or matched. Oh, you're going to UFC Tampa. That's sick. I'm excited for you, bro. I hope not. I hope not. I hope Colby Covington can win, but unfortunately, man, I could see it happening. I could see Colby Covington losing. Grasso champ again 2025. I don't think so. Not because I doubt her capabilities. It's just because she has a broken leg that takes like 2 years to recover from. So I don't even know if we're gonna see her in 2025. And yeah, Tatiana's gonna get that belt. That's one thing I really want to get into in that fight or in this live is Tatiana Suarez, her destiny, her becoming the champion. It will happen. It is going to freaking happen. I don't care what anybody says. Zhang is fucked. I'm looking forward to UFC Tampa. I'm also excited for UFC 312 and new exactly. And there's already so many Tatiana haters complaining that she got this title shot, saying, how could she get a title shot when she pulled out of her last two fights and she hasn't fought in 2 years? Bitch, Weili hasn't fought in nearly a year by the time it's going to be her next fight. Strawweight's already so terrible. Tatiana's the only woman worthy of being in the octagon with Weili. She's the number one contender. She's undefeated, so she deserves to be in there with Weili. She deserves a title shot. There's no other clear contender outside of Tatiana Suarez. And people always try to dismiss her body of work that she's done. Like before this recent run where she beat Montana De La Rosa and Jessica Andrade, people try to dismiss her past wins over Grasso, former champ, Carla, former champ, who went on to become a champ again to string together 6 wins and get the belt back. People are just going to overlook that, say it doesn't matter, and then blame Jessica losing on Jessica being on a losing streak, even though Jessica proved since the Tatiana fight to still be a force in the strawweight division. Yeah, she lost to like a fight since to Natalia Silva, but different weight class. A fight that Jessica arguably shouldn't have been taking. She was already doing so well at strawweight. She should have stayed at strawweight and kept winning and kept making Tatiana um, look good. Yeah, she easily beat Grasso, and people say, "Oh, it was a long time ago." But if you look at Grasso's 3 fights with Shevchenko, how can you tell me the outcome today would be any different? Grasso can't defend 16 double legs from Valentina Shevchenko, 20 plus double legs from Valentina. She can't defend them. She had 3 chances to show improved takedown defense, and she couldn't. What makes you think that she can beat Tatiana Suarez? Like, yeah, she got better since, but her takedown defense to this day still sucks. She just developed an ability to um, offer up her own sort of threat offensively with grappling, but defensively, she's still not good. MVP will chin Char. I hope so. Michael Johnson is going to win tonight. I hope so too. I heard of Navajo Sterling. And yeah, Weili's gonna get manhandled, and people are like predicting that Tatiana Suarez is gonna pull out of the fight. Look, I'm not here to predict whether she pulls out or not, because she did pull out of her last 2 fights. She is injury prone, so that is something to look out for. I am worried that she might pull out, but here's the thing. Here's the fucking thing, you guys. Um, I don't think Tatiana's pulling out. I could be wrong. This could age like milk. But I think this fight is destined to happen. I think her versus Weili is meant to happen. And I think it's Tatiana's time. I think this is how everything was supposed to go. Everything happens for a reason. There's a reason why the Verna fight never happened. There's a reason why the Lemos fight never happened. It's not because she would have lost those fights and she needed to not fight them in order to make it to a title shot. It's just that she had already made her mark at strawweight before the neck injury and the knee injury and the 4-year layoff. And all she needed really was just one win at strawweight to get a title shot. She didn't need to string together like 3 straight wins before fighting Weili, although that would have been cool. It would have been cool to see her, then beat Lemos and then beat Verna, because then less people would complain. But a win over Jessica Andrade was title shot earning enough. So anything else would be a waste of time. I feel like she was always meant to fight Weili after beating Jessica Andrade. That was always going to be the next fight. And anything else was just a waste of time and shouldn't have happened. But I think this is the one where Tatiana is going to show up. She's going to make it to the octagon, and she's going to be locked in the cage with Zhang Weili. And only time will tell what the outcome will be. But for right now, my prediction is Tatiana Suarez is going to get her hand raised on February the 8th, and she's going to be the new UFC strawweight champion of the world. I think Tatiana is the chosen one to take out Weili in the UFC after Rose and end her reign for good. Rose beat her twice, but didn't keep her from the belt because then Rose lost after the left strawweight, and then that allowed Weili to get the belt back against a more favorable style matchup. And then ever since, Weili's been fighting stylistically favorable matchups for herself since getting her belt back, since Rose left. But now there's one more bad matchup in the picture, and that's Tatiana Suarez. And I mean, if she can beat Tatiana, that will definitely be a huge win. But I don't think Weili's gonna win this one. I really feel like she's gonna lose, and she's gonna lose dominantly. And people are gonna be shocked because people see Weili as unbeatable. She does have this aura of invincibility about her, even though Rose beat her twice. I mean, if you really look into it deeply, how these fans look at the Rose fights is the first one was a fluke, the second one was a robbery. So people don't really look at those losses as like valid losses. Like people cope and think she should be 1-1 with Rose. So people kind of overlook and dismiss that loss she had to Rose Namajunas. And it kind of doesn't matter because since that loss to Rose, I mean, she's been doing very well, you know? But I think this is where it ends. I really do. Weili's physically stronger than Tatiana, but not the better grappler. Um, with Tatiana, but not better than not. She's physically stronger than Tatiana, but she better not grapple with Tati because if she does, she's getting submitted. That's what I'm saying, man. I don't even know if she's stronger than Tatiana. Honestly, I'm gonna say Tatiana's stronger than Zhang Weili. I think she's stronger than her. I think Jessica Andrade is slightly stronger than Zhang actually. Not that she's a better fighter than Weili. I think Jessica physically is stronger than Weili. I think she's harder to take down than Zhang Weili. She's harder to keep down than Zhang Weili. She's harder to wrestle than Zhang Weili. And Tatiana was able to go out there and still do her thing. So this might sound like a hot take. I think Tatiana is going to have an even easier time working her wrestling on Weili and overpowering her than she was able to do to Jessica Andrade. The only thing that Jessica like is lacking in or behind on against Weili is just she's not as technical, not as skilled, doesn't have as good a fight IQ, and just isn't champ caliber despite being a former champion. All she really is just physical strength at the end of the day and toughness. Weili has physical strength, toughness, and skill. Um, but yeah, I don't think her strength is going to help her against Tatiana. And I'm willing to predict in this fight, I'm willing to predict that Weili is going to try to wrestle Tatiana, and it's going to prove to be a huge mistake when she does. She's going to try to beat Tatiana at her own game, and it's going to end up getting her taken down. Like I said in the community post, I think this fight is going to be I think this is going to be the strawweight version of Tyler Santos versus Valentina Shevchenko, except in this story, Valentina loses, and it's not a close fight. Dricus beat Sean. I mean, that fight, I've watched that fight so many times, and I still can't decide who won that fight. It was such a close fight. It really could have gone either way. But who wins this fight? Um, Again, I mean, I'm gonna just say Dricus wins, but he might not, honestly. I will not be surprised if Sean Strickland gets this one back. And I heard Sean Strickland just recently got his knee fixed from that motorcycle accident that he had in 2018. And that injury that he suffered from that accident years ago ultimately really could have limited and hindered Sean Strickland's abilities. So if we see something new out of Sean unlocked on February 8th, DDP might be in trouble. It might just be like how DDP leveled up the moment he got his nose fixed. And that last fight with DDP and Sean was super close. And if anyone in this division is the perfect style to beat Dricus du Plessis, it's no one other than Sean Strickland. I mean, there's Khamzat Chimaev, but outside of Khamzat, I think Sean Strickland's the best style to go up against DDP. He's got the striking defense to deal with DDP's wild, sloppy, brawling style. He's got the chin to handle DDP's power. He's technically a better striker, better boxer than Dricus, can match the 5 round cardio, has the takedown defense, is hard to hold down and do anything with on the mat once you do get him there. So, yeah, I think Sean is honestly a good underdog in this fight. Like, I could see a scenario where, like, everyone's picking Dricus du Plessis to win. Everyone's hoping that he wins because he's a fan favorite. Sean at this time is kind of hated by the fans because he's been being annoying. But then Sean ends up winning, and then fans are salty about it. I can imagine that reality. Nah, she didn't pull out of the Verna fight. Yeah, I think she's stronger than Whaley too. But yeah, something weird just went into that Verna Jandy Roba fight. And I watched Tatiana's interview with Helen Yee, and Helen asked her what went on behind the scenes with the Verna fight. Why didn't it happen? All Tatiana said all Tatiana said was it just didn't work out. And then the UFC gave me this fight. So there's something we don't know that Tatiana's not telling us, but it's definitely not an injury. It definitely wasn't health issues. I think my theory was correct. I think the UFC realized they fucked up by making Verna versus Tatiana. And I heard rumors, I heard some buzz that the UFC was actually trying to make Weili versus Valentina in February. But then I guess something went wrong with that fight to where it couldn't happen on that date. So then the UFC, they were panicking and scrambling to get Weili an opponent. Plans changed, and they needed to do something. They needed to give Weili someone to fight in the strawweight division since Val was off the table. So what the UFC did was they're like, "All right, Tatiana, do you want to fight Zhang?" And she said, "Yeah." And then the UFC's like, "Okay, we're gonna give it to you, but we need you to stay quiet. Don't say anything. We're gonna cancel your Verna fight, but don't post anything. Don't make any statements about the fight. Just keep training, and we'll let you know when we have a date available or when we're gonna announce the fight." I really think that's what happened because if Tatiana was really injured, I know some injuries like you can recover from fast. I know some fighters they got injured for one date, but then they were able to fight like a month later. They had their fights pushed back a month later. That could be a realistic thing. Like maybe Tatiana did get injured and couldn't fight in December, but could be okay on time for February. That is possible, but I don't think that's the case. I really feel like if Tatiana's pullout was legitimate, I think they would have given it to Verna Jandy Roba in February. That's what I think. So I think the UFC pulled some strings to get Tatiana the title shot, but they're kind of keeping it under wraps. So the fans like myself who are smart and can pick up on a pattern like this, and other people who know what I know, we already know what's up with the UFC and what they're doing. But then there's some casuals out there who are like, no, Tatiana pulled out. She's going to pull out again. Even though I don't think she's pulling out, I think this fight is just an extended camp. It's an extended camp, um, just extended 2 months and a different opponent. So her training camp never stopped. Her training camp that began in October, that was set for a fight date in December, only got delayed 2 months with a new opponent and someone she already should have been fighting. The Verna fight never should have been booked. And honestly, Tatiana Suarez versus Zhang Weili should have happened the day that Verna Tatiana, the day that Verna Tatiana was booked. December 7th is when Tatiana Weili should have been booked. UFC 310. Weili had no reason to take the rest of the year off. She's just inactive for the sake of it. But now here we are. She's going to fight early 2025, and we're going to get this fight over with, and it's going to happen. And if she pulls out, I'm going to crash out. I swear to God, man. I swear. If Tatiana pulls out, I give up. Because I know I'm going to have to deal with the backlash from my haters, Tatiana's haters, people who hate me supporting my girl and hate Tatiana. I'm going to get so much crap if Tatiana pulls out. So, Tatiana, have a safe and healthy camp. Please, MMA gods, don't fuck this up. This fight needs to happen. Everyone getting a title shot off Andrade. I know it's crazy. Rose got a shot off Andrade. Did anyone else beat Jessica and earn a title shot before? Yan Xiaonan and now Tatiana Suarez. The Patchy Mix versus Umar. That would be a pretty good fight. I think Patchy Mix, I know he's doing his thing in Bellator or PFL, but eventually he needs to cross over into the UFC. Yeah, Weili is definitely more powerful with strikes, but yeah, Tatiana is physically stronger in the clinch. I agree. What's up, Toron Brown? She's hard to take down only because she's stockily strong. Yeah, short, stocky, lower center of gravity. And Weili doesn't have the same level of lower center of gravity as Jessica, but because Weili is not this short, stocky mini fridge, she's going to be a lot easier to shoot in on, and she's going to be a lot easier to take down. When Rose wanted to take down Zhang Weili, guess what? She took her down. Whenever Rose ended up on top of Zhang Weili, Weili couldn't get off the ground. She couldn't escape the canvas and get back to her feet. When Rose took down Jessica, Jessica got up every time in both fights. And I don't even think the UFC official stats even counted those takedowns as takedowns. That's how quickly Jessica got back to her feet. Weili doesn't have that kind of get-up ability. Now, I know she was able to defend against Carla, but Carla Esparza is tiny. She's tiny, and her wrestling is nowhere near the level of a Tatiana Suarez. I'm gonna look up the stats for Weili versus Carla. I want to see how many takedowns that Weili stuffed in that fight. How many takedowns? So she stuffed at least 3 takedowns. 3 takedowns, got taken down maybe one time. But I don't think she's gonna be able to defend that many takedowns of Weili. It's not, or Suarez. It's not gonna happen. Yan Xiaonan took her down, for crying out loud. Like, I'm very confident that if Tatiana doesn't pull out, that she's gonna win the fight. If Tatiana fights her like she fought Montana, then I'm confident she'll win. But she fights her like she fought Andrade, and it'll be a tougher fight. I honestly don't really understand that statement. I mean, I get what you're saying. You're saying if she wrestles more from the get-go like she did against Montana and doesn't strike a long, if she doesn't strike as long against Tatiana as she did against Jessica, or hold on, let me say that again. Let me just rewind that whole statement. So I know you're saying that if she wrestles from the get-go early against Weili like she did against Montana and doesn't play the striking game that long against Weili, then she should dominate. But I don't know. Because even then, I feel like Tatiana's going to be hard for Weili to hit clean. You know what I mean? I think obviously Weili's a better striker than Jessica. She's better at cutting off the cage, more accurate, faster, better at landing clean than Jessica. But Tatiana in that fight against Andrade, the takedowns weren't that easy, and I think she just wanted to kind of prove a point and show her improved striking. Now against Weili, yeah, I don't think she's gonna play that same long game on the feet, but I do think she is gonna test the waters in the stand up a little bit against Weili, and I think she will do just fine. I don't think Weili's knocking her out. She might land like a few good shots, but I see Suarez using that reach, posting and retreating with those long arms, and just staying out of range. And then whenever Weili does get close, they're gonna be in the clinch, and then Tatiana's gonna get an easy takedown. August? That's insane. That's crazy. Okay, that's why the UFC, because they could have just said, okay, we can do Weili Valentina in March, but freaking August? That sucks, man. I mean, Grosso would have taken time off as well if she won because the leg injury, but damn, why that? Why be that inactive? Like, what is it with these WMMA champions being so inactive? Amanda Nunes, when she got the belt back, didn't come back till like June of 2023 after competing in July 2022. And now Val, after getting the belt back in September 2024, isn't going to fight again until August 2025. Weili, no injuries, fought one time, April of 2024, and then takes till February 2025 to fight again. Makes no sense. Now, I kind of understood her fighting once in 2024. Like, she took, 8 months off after winning the belt back, and then, didn't want to fight again too soon, 4 months after against Lemos. Her timeline, her schedule fighting in November 2022, August 2023, and April 2024 wasn't bad, but I thought that Weili would like maybe fight twice in 2024. I did not see her fighting one time. So I don't know what's up with Val unless she's like injured or something. She was bargaining with the UFC about the 125 title shot. She's not inactive and sleeping. Weili's takedown defense technique is better. Yeah, Rose is not stronger than Weili, and yet she easily took her down and kept her there. So I'm just saying, if Rose Namajunas, if Rose, the Thug Rose, could take down Zhang and keep her there, what do you think Tatiana's gonna do? And Tatiana's not just gonna hold position and rest on her like Rose did. Tatiana's literally gonna look to pass guard. She's gonna look to advance to more dominant positions and do damage with ground and pound. Like, it's going to be more devastating and dangerous for Weili to have someone like Tatiana on top of her than someone like Rose. Weili tried to run to 125 after she fought Yan, but no, bring that ass here. You got to fight Tatiana. Yep, I've been saying that. She has to fight Tatiana Suarez first. She could not escape that fight. She wanted to move up right away without fighting Tatiana, but fate, destiny, the universe, Allah, what have you, had different plans. Weili versus Tatiana was always going to be the fight after Weili beat Yan Xiaonan. And after Tatiana beat Jessica, it was supposed to be Weili versus Tatiana, and it should have happened this year. It should have happened last weekend. It should have happened in Madison Square Garden. I don't know why Weili couldn't have turned around in November after fighting in April. Makes no freaking sense. She should have fought twice this year. Tatiana should have got a title shot this year. This should not have taken until 2025 to happen. But you know what? I mean, I waited 2 years for um Weili versus I keep my throat. Something's wrong with my throat. Anyway, I waited 2 years for Weili versus Rose, and eventually it materialized. But I mean, that fight taking as long as it did to happen made more sense because Rose was inactive coming off a loss to Jessica Andrade, and then fought her again and won a year later, and then had a nose injury. And then Zhang Wei Li took time off after the Joanna fight because that was a hard fought fight. And I think she took time off because she was waiting for Rose and didn't want to fight anyone else in the meantime because Rose was like the next biggest fight to make. So that fight taking a while to happen made sense. But Weili Tatiana should have happened a year after Tatiana won against Jessica. Where's your source that she told you August? And why is she gonna wait till August to come back? Is there like an injury or something? If Weili tries to wrestle against Suarez, I think it will be similar to Holly versus Kayla. Yep, I think so too. And Weili's gonna get herself submitted like Holly Holm. My pick is gonna be Tatiana Suarez by submission round 2. I think it's going to be another Tatiana second round submission. It might be another round 2 guillotine for Tatiana Suarez, honestly. That or like a Darce choke. But another choke I can visualize is like an arm triangle. Every time I picture a finish, I always see Tatiana getting like an arm triangle and Weili not tapping, being a warrior, and just taking the path of going out cold from a choke. I could also see a rear naked choke happening too. I hope Manon tries to wrestle Valentina. That would be an interesting approach if Manon tried to take her down, but I don't know. Manon doesn't really shoot takedowns in her fight. She mainly just strikes. And I mean, just a striking match with Val is going to be pretty difficult. I mean, it could be doable. She could maybe win on the feet, but Val, I think, is a way better striker than Manon. I think Rose succeeded with takedowns because she is faster. She's a faster striker and mixes things up really well. I think those are excuses that people make to try and make Weili look good or to try and invalidate Suarez's chances. Like, oh, well, Rose only took her down because she's well rounded. Well, Tatiana's gonna take her down because Tatiana Suarez is an elite level wrestler, and Weili's takedown defense isn't that good. Like, how hard can that be to comprehend? Tatiana doesn't need to be a well-rounded mixed martial artist to impose her game on Zhang Weili. And I think she is going to strike with Weili for a little bit. Not for too long. I don't think she's going to be a better striker, but I think she's going to land some good kicks at range against Weili Zhang. She might actually chance it in the punching exchanges too. I could see her landing some good jab 1-2s on Zhang Weili, sticking and moving before the opening presents itself to get a takedown. Now, obviously, if it's just purely striking, then Weili will kick her ass. But because the takedown threat is involved, I do think that might actually help Tatiana striking in this fight better than it could have Carla Esparza. And Carla Esparza was landing a few decent shots on Zhang Weili in that fight. And I think Tatiana can land better shots. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I don't agree. And Tatiana Suarez is literally like the Khamzat Chimaev of the strawweight division. But Tatiana showed striking in that last fight against Jessica to set up her wrestling, to create openings for takedowns. This is not the same Tatiana Suarez from 2018-19 who solely depended just on her wrestling. Like Tatiana has shown some improvements from her pre-injury run because pre-injuries, I feel like if her and Jessica would have fought 4 to 5 years ago, it would have been a different fight. I think Tatiana would have still won regardless, but I do think Tatiana would have been less comfortable on the feet. She would have been less willing to strike with Jessica, and she would have been frequently shooting every single time Jessica got back to her feet. There would be no waiting game on the feet for Tatiana. if they would have fought in 2018, 2019. But I do feel like Tatiana has taken that hiatus of 4 years to evolve her game. So I do think that she is going to be able to strike with Weili ever so slightly to set up her takedowns. I think she's going to be able to use her length and her footwork and her distance management to kind of frustrate Weili, to get Weili to chase her down. And once Weili does get in close, all Tatiana has to do is get a hold of her, and then she'll take her down. Tatiana versus guillotine, or Tatiana via guillotine or Darce. That's what I can see too. You don't need your striking to set up your takedowns when you're an elite wrestler. I agree. Obviously, you got to show some level of stand up in MMA, but if you're someone of the level of a Tatiana Suarez, it doesn't really matter. Same thing with Khabib. I know Khabib would like use his striking pressure to set up his takedowns, but his striking wasn't really that good, and he was still able to get takedowns and dominate. If that was Taxi from 2019, I would have given her a better chance. Nah, 2019 Tatiana went 29-28 with Nina Nunes. I don't want to hear it. She struggled with Nina Nunes. She gets touched a lot. Got dropped and taken down multiple times by Yan Xiaonan. Almost subbed by Lemos too because she forces takedowns with her strength. And that could be one thing that could get her in trouble against Tatiana. And if Tatiana has a hold of that Darce, I don't think Weili's getting out of that. The reason why she was able to escape the darts from Lemos is because Lemos was giving up bottom position. Lemos also, I think, was in the half guard when she had a hold of Weili's neck. And then Weili was able to pass her guard, get past her hips to the side control. And I think that's how she was able to get up. But if Tatiana, someone with the level of Tatiana's wrestling, has a hold of that neck, I don't think Tatiana's going to give up bottom position and allow Wei Li to scramble out like that. I think she can stack up on top of Wei Li while having a hold of her neck, and then just put even more weight um, on Wei Li's head and neck to actually be able to complete that submission. I doubt it. I think Verna is extremely overrated. Yeah, I know. That's why I'm saying 2019 Tatiana wasn't good. 2018 Tatiana was good, but 2018 Tatiana was less comfortable in the striking, and she kept forcing takedowns and kept panic shooting. I mean, her panic shooting, her takedowns would work, but she showed literally no willingness to strike. But then you look at her in 2023, she was very comfortable in the stand up against Jessica Andrade. Very comfortable. And she let the takedowns flow. She let the opportunities present themselves rather than feeling the need to force the opportunities. Like if Jessica and Tatiana fought at UFC 228, I think Tatiana would still win, but there would be a higher chance of Jessica winning at that time because of the way Tatiana would have approached the fight. It could have made it a lot easier for Jessica Andrade, and that was also a better Jessica at the time too. I still remember saying how Henry Cejudo, the Olympic wrestling champion, got out wrestled by Aljo, who has 46% takedown defense. So you're comparing this fight to Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo. Well, a major difference between Aljo Cejudo and Tatiana Suarez versus Zhang Weili is Henry Cejudo was coming off a 3-year layoff. He was 36 years old. Aljamain Sterling was more active than Henry, younger, than Henry Cejudo. Now I know by the time Weili or by the time Tatiana fights again, it will almost be like a year and a half, 2 years since her last fight. But it will nearly be a year since Weili's last fight. So they're both equally as inactive as one another. So they're equal in inactivity and they're equal in age. And Aljamain Sterling has shown to be harder to take down and control than Weili. Aljamain Sterling showed good takedown defense in his career. Weili has not. When Aljamain Sterling gets taken down, he showed the ability to scramble back to his feet. And if he doesn't, Aljamain Sterling has submissions off his back. And Henry Cejudo doesn't really win fights based off taking you down or holding you down. He gets a few takedowns to score points, but Henry Cejudo mainly beats you off of the striking, pressure, closing the distance, calf kicks. That's mainly how he wins his fights. He didn't beat Marlon Moraes primarily through his wrestling. He beat him through wearing him down through pressure on the feet, and then eventually getting him down and ground and pounding him. But he didn't dominate with his wrestling. Dominic Cruz, that fight, he knocked him out on the feet. His fight with TJ Dillashaw, beat him on the feet, knocked him out standing. His fight with DJ, he did primarily win because of the wrestling, but also that fight was very competitive on the feet too. And I think Henry did more in the striking against DJ than he did in the wrestling. So there's a major difference between both of those fights. Yeah, I remember that. I remember Tatiana was the kind of rubbing her neck. Even in her interviews after the Nina fight, she just kept rubbing her neck. Like that whole fight, Tatiana just looked off. Like even in her introduction, she looked low energy, not fully in it. You know, she was smiling, but she just didn't seem there mentally. She's like, "All right, I'm showing up and I'm gonna win." And she did win, but she just didn't look that good. I feel like the Tatiana who we've seen before that fight and after would finish Nina Ansaroff inside 2 rounds. No, I don't think so. I don't get this notion that Tatiana Suarez is not the same fighter. If anything, she's better. She's getting finishes like she was before the neck injury. The only fight in her recent run where she didn't get a finish was Nina Nunes. And then there was one girl she couldn't finish in her UFC debut off of Tough or after Tough, in her official first UFC fight. But every other fight, when she won the Tough finale, and then when she went on to fight Grasso and Carla, finishes. Montana and Jessica, finishes. So I don't think she's washed up. If Tatiana declined in any way, shape, or form, she would not be the number one contender fighting for the belt right now. Oh. Um I don't know about that either. I mean, maybe, but I would pick Weili to beat Verna. I think Verna is extremely overrated. I don't think Verna's that good. I think people they glaze Verna just to sound funny and to sound different. I don't know why people like Verna that much. I don't know. I don't get what people see in Verna Janiroba. I really don't understand. I mean, she got outstruck by Mackenzie Dern. How we forgot that? She lost to Carla Esparza. Got outstruck by Amanda Rebus, but yeah, totally she's a threat to Zhang Wei Li. That makes total sense. You're asking JP. Isn't or at least Lucinda the person who beat Marina Rodriguez in that last fight by split decision? Did you see Norma call out Raquel? I think that fight happens. I think if that fight happens, Norma's gonna embarrass her. I think so too. I got Norma Dumont in that fight as well. And I think people are gonna forget Raquel. Like right now, people who are like sympathizing with her over losing to Juliana Pena in a competitive fight where she did lose and wasn't robbed. I feel like people are gonna shut up about Raquel. They're gonna shut up about Raquel versus Pena. which I can't wait, honestly. I cannot wait till Raquel loses her next fight. I do think they're going to make that fight with Norma, and I do think she's going to get beaten. I think she'll get outstruck, and then Dumont's going to earn a title shot sometime soon, probably late 2025. Facts, DJ. Even though she had a neck injury, she still won 2 rounds. That's a real warrior. Exactly. Man, if that was a 5 round fight night, could you imagine if that was a 5 round fight night between Nina Nunes and Tatiana Suarez? Tatiana right now would have literally one career loss. She wouldn't be undefeated. And then on her comeback, I don't think Tatiana would get gifted a top five contender fight against Jessica Andrade, leading to her getting a title shot at Wei Lee. Her career would look so much different right now. And a loss to Nina Nunes would have been embarrassing too, because Nina Nunes sucks. Oh, that's funny. Saying Verna outstrikes and submits Wei Lee. Get out of here, bro. I cannot wait till the day Verna loses so you guys can just shut the fuck up and stop acting like she's like the next big thing, because she's really not. She's really not. I never looked at Verna throughout her entire UFC career and be like, wow, she's an absolute threat. This person's a future champion. Now who knows? Maybe this will age horribly. Maybe Tatiana pulls out and then Lemo steps in, and then by some comedic Twilight Zone reality thingy, maybe she does end up beating Whaley for the belt and becomes the next fluke weird champion who never should have been champion. But I don't see that happening. Yeah, that's just Cope allowing Pena to take her down. Nah, she got taken down because she can't stop Pena's takedowns. That's why. And man, I regret not picking Juliana Pena to win that fight. I just didn't pick her because I lost faith. Like I just watched Grasso and Aldana get dominated on the same night. And I'm like, there's no way things are gonna get any better from here. So of course now Juliana's gonna lose. But thank goodness she didn't lose that fight. That would have been a stain on her record to lose to Raquel. And then, even though people still think that Amanda Nunes fight was a fluke, could you imagine if then, after losing to Amanda, she can't even beat Raquel? Then people people would then shit on Pena even more than they're doing right now. People would be like, "Wow, this person couldn't beat Raquel and she beat Nunes that one time. That was definitely a fluke." But even though people still don't respect her the way they should, at least Juliana Pena bounced back from losing to Amanda and got her belt back, showing that, okay, outside of Amanda, she can still beat other top contenders and she can still win the belt if Amanda's not around. If Rose is really a better wrestler, she should have just took Whaley down 10 times, all 5 rounds, but no. I mean, she could have, but she chose not to. Rose Namajunas, that's not how she fights. That's not how Rose fights. Rose prefers to strike in her fights. Rose, if you look at her fights, she doesn't really shoot takedowns until the 5th round. Usually, Rose will strike with you early, and then she'll take you down and hold you down in the fifth to seal the deal. That's what she did against that's what she did against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. In that that's what she did against Joanna in the second fight. That's what she did against Wei Lee in the second fight. If my memory serves me correctly, that's what she did against Amanda Ribas. It was a close fight. And did she take her down and hold her down in the fifth? Maybe it was the fourth, but I could have sworn she took her down and pinned her in the 5th round. The second Jessica fight, 3 round fight, but she went for a takedown in round 3. Carla Esparza, she went for a takedown in round 5. So Rose does not really grapple until like later on in the fight. And then sometimes she'll go for takedowns early, but it's rare. Yeah, that's Rose's go-to kind of takedown. She'll usually like throw that straight right. She'll hop in with that straight right and then level change to like a body lock trip. I know Tatiana doesn't do that, but Tatiana doesn't need to take down Wei Lee via that method. She doesn't need to. She can shoot in literally on Weili's ankles and get her off balance like she did to Jessica Andrade, or she can wait a little bit until Weili gets in close, grab her up in the clinch, and then trip her. How am I saying that Rose has bad IQ? What did I say to indicate that she has bad IQ? I said that Rose does not grapple until later on in fights because she wants to steal the deal. If it's a close fight, Rose, she's smart. She knows the scoring system. And she knows that if she can have a dominant last round, that could maybe win her the fight. That's why she took down Weili in the fifth, because it was a close fight. And if she didn't go for the takedown in round five, I mean, she could have won on the feet, but who knows what could have happened. There's a chance that Weili could have maybe made it even in the stand-up, and they could have given round five to Weili. So she needed to leave no doubt in the fifth round. Same thing with against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Close striking battle throughout 4 rounds, and then round five, she went for that takedown last minute to seal the deal. She tried the same thing against Carla, which unfortunately didn't work in her favor because she lost the split decision. But I'm not saying Rose has poor fight IQ because she waits till the last round to shoot takedowns. I'm just saying that's not her thing. Her thing is not to shoot takedowns every round throughout the entire fight. Rose, at the end of the day, is a striker. She's a well-rounded mixed martial artist who can grapple, but she mainly prefers to strike. That is her bread and butter. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, and most people thought Weili won that fight. I mean, I gotta watch that fight again. I mean, when I was at my peak at being a Rose fan, I'm like, nah, there's no way Weili won that fight. But I'll watch it again and I'll give my score. But how I remember it was Rose 2, 4, and 5. Honestly, I feel like that fight came down to the second round, which Weili was winning a majority of round two, but then she got taken down at the end, and then the judges just gave Rose that round based off one takedown. So honestly, Weili probably should have won the first 3 rounds of the fight. Maybe if Weili doesn't get taken down in round two, maybe the judges can't find something to score for Rose. I don't know. But honestly, when I watch that fight, for some reason, I always feel like Rose won the first round. I could be off, I could be tripping, but something about round one feels like Rose won. And I know she got taken down twice, but Weili did nothing with those 2 takedowns in the first round. I mean, she did kind of ground and pound her, but Rose was kind of deflecting those shots, and then she got up. But Rose was like walking her down, kind of out striking her in the first. That's what it felt like. And then it felt like Weili won round two, and then Rose won the last 2 rounds. That's how it felt like to me watching it. I mean, you guys can let me know if I'm completely off about the first round. I gotta watch that fight again, but I don't know. There are some close fights where it's like there's that one round where everyone says that one fighter lost. I'm like in the minority of someone who says, nah, I feel like that fighter won that said round. Like Holloway Volkanovski part two. I always feel like Holloway won round four when everyone else says he lost the fourth and won the third. I don't know. Then how are you explaining that Weili took down Rose 5 times in that fight as well when Rose only got two? Because Rose only attempted 2 takedowns in that fight. I don't know how hard that could be to understand. Like I said, Rose Namajunas does not offensively wrestle frequently in her fights. She mainly strikes in her fights. Now, she did grapple a lot against Tracy Cortez in that fight when she didn't need to. The most we saw Rose shoot takedowns in a fight recently was against Tracy Cortez. And I think she was going for a lot of takedowns against Erin too because she was getting uncomfortable. Look, Rose went for 5 takedowns against Tracy Cortez, 5 for 5 on takedowns, and she didn't need to. She was dominant in the striking, but If she wanted to against Wei Li, I think she could have went 5 for 5 on takedowns. But Rose's approach to that second fight was she only wanted to strike. Her approach was strike and don't get taken down. Strike and defend takedowns. Obviously, she didn't do the greatest job at defending takedowns against Wei Li. Like, fair play, Wei Li offensively has really good wrestling. But defensively, I don't think it's all that. I really don't. And maybe she could prove me wrong on February the 8th, but I really think she's going to struggle up against the takedowns of Tatiana Suarez. I got Rose 2-4-5. That's a fair score. I feel like that's kind of the common score of the fight is Rose 2-4-5. It's either way. It's either Rose 2-4-5 or Wei Li 1-2-3. I think Wei Li wrestles well, but grapples not that good. I don't know. I don't know if that's true because Wei Li has really good submissions. So I don't know. I think Wei Li's a really good grappler, but not obviously not as good of a grappler as Tatiana. And she does wrestle well. I will give you that. I'm not saying she can't wrestle. I'm just saying her takedown the fence is a little bit concerning. Hold on. Let me just look at her. And Wei Li's takedown defense, 50% takedown defense. So that's not really a good look ahead of the Tatiana Suarez fight. Why am I taking credits away from Wei Li? I'm not. I'm just criticizing her. I'm criticizing her. That's all. Yeah, Wei Li doesn't have the greatest bottom game. She doesn't. But from the top position, Wei Li's very good when it comes to control, looking for subs, getting the back. She's very good with that crucifix back take. Like what she did to Carla, where she like trapped the arm and then choked her out. That was amazing. What she did in that fight. But I'm not taking any credit away from Zhang. I think Zhang is amazing, but I think if anyone right now is going to beat her, it's Tatiana, and I think Tatiana's a bad matchup. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. Only time will tell. Only God knows what's going to happen in a couple months from now, but this is my prediction. This is my analysis of the fight. Is I don't think that Wei Li is going to be able to. Man, talking with a sore throat on live is so annoying. I don't think Wei Li's going to be able to um, deal with the wrestling, and I think she's going to lose. I really want to see Tatiana's bottom game. I don't know if I want to see it. I mean, it would be nice to see if she could offer up any threat from bottom, but as a dominant wrestler, it's better that Tatiana is not on her back. And if she does get put on her back, it's better she just gets right back to her feet and is the one in control of the takedowns and the ground game and stuff. Untested, right? Or yeah, I think Tatiana's bottom game is definitely untested. And if Wei Li does put her on her back, which I mean I could maybe see Wei Li taking her down, but if she does take her down, I think Tatiana will just get right back up, or she'll reverse her. Like it could be like when Valentina took down Tyler Santos and then Tyler rolled her over and ended up on top. Like that might happen. But 2025 is already off to an amazing start. Like so many great fights are booked. And I just hope that this isn't going to be one of those things where we get too excited for the beginning of the year, only for a lot of these fights to get canceled. Like, please, I hope the Tatiana fight doesn't get canceled. Dricus versus Strickland, I don't really care much about that fight. If Dricus pulls out or if Sean pulls out, Khamzat will step in, so it doesn't matter. But I really want to see Makachev versus Sarukian too. I really want to see Umar Nurmagomedov versus Marab, and I really want to see Yuri Prohaska versus Jamal Hill. UFC 311 is amazing. Way better than UFC 310, which was this month, last weekend. Um, Great card. UFC 312 is great. And we got Israel Adesanya headlining a fight night 1 week prior to Dricus versus Strickland against Nasruddin Imavov. What a good lineup. The only thing about 2025 so far that's not good is the only thing that's not good about 2025 is starting off the year in the Apex with Amanda Rebus versus Mackenzie Dern 2. Like, I don't know why they moved that fight from this card. They could have just got it over with tonight, and they don't need a stupid Apex fight night. Just forget it. Like, it's 2025 almost. We're not in 2020 anymore. Why are we still going to the Apex? Like, the Apex literally is a cheap cop out and a cheap excuse to have weak, lame, low quality fight nights. So the UFC can make these bad cards. Because if the UFC, if they invest money into like going into actual stadiums and stuff, then they have to make good fight nights. And they don't want to have to do that. But it's almost 2025. It's time to step it up, man. I really think she could get her down from the clinch. Tatiana Suarez is also good in the clinch, and she's amazing at getting takedowns from the clinch. She's got good clinch trips, kind of like Juliana Pena. The way Pena was able to like trip Raquel from the clinch, I could see Tatiana doing something very similar to Weili and throwing her off balance. But who do I got between Umar and Merab? I'm going to go with Umar Nurmagomedov. I'm just going to say that right now. I know when I announced the video or I announced the fight in my video, I kind of acted like it was a 50-50 fight. But honestly, I think if anyone's beating Merab Dvalishvili at bantamweight, it's Umar Nurmagomedov. I think Umar is the perfect style to beat Merab Dvalishvili. He's the only man in the division who can go up against the wrestling of Merab. And I think on the feet, he's better than Merab Dvalishvili. Better striker, good takedown defense. I could also see him reversing the takedowns of Merab too. Maybe he could get his own takedowns against Merab. I feel like the wrestling will cancel each other out, but I don't know. I could see a scenario where like Umar Nurmagomedov gets like a wizard trip off a failed takedown from Merab and ends up on top of him. Now, will he be able to hold him down? I don't know. But I do think he can defend takedowns and outstrike him. Now, I know Peter Yan was able to defend takedowns, but he couldn't outstrike him. But Yan was injured in that fight. He had a shoulder injury, his knee was injured. And Piotr Yan, he has a striking style that's almost perfect for Merab's pressure style. Like, Peter Yan is a slow starter who needs time to download the data, figure out his plan of attack before he could really get going. And Merab put the volume on Peter Yan right away, so Yan couldn't get anything going in the striking. But I don't think Umar Nurmagomedov's striking is going to be nullified by Umar's pressure like Peter Yan's was. The only thing I feel like this fight's going to come down to is the cardio. How well is Umar Nurmagomedov's cardio going to hold up against Merab Dvalishvili? Like, maybe there could be a scenario where Umar Nurmagomedov is doing well in the first 2 rounds and then he gasses and loses the last 3 to lose a decision. But I think his cardio is going to be fine. And I think we're about to see another Muslim champion, another Dagestani champion. Okay, Bilal, I know he's not Dagestani, but he's Muslim. He's Middle Eastern. He just won the belt. Islam Makhachev 2 years ago won the title against Oliveira. Every time a Dagestani fights for the belt, they always win. Even Ankalaev won against Blachowicz, but they didn't give him the decision. But you get the point. These Dagestani fighters, when they're put in there to fight for the belt, they always come through. Khabib Nurmagomedov got a title shot, and he won the belt, and he defended it 3 times. So I do think that we're going to be in the Umar Nurmagomedov era real soon. Like, I get Islam Makhachev vibes from Umar because, like Islam only beat one top five guy going into his title shot against Charles Oliveira, and everyone said Islam doesn't deserve a title shot because Islam only has one top five win against Hooker on short notice, and outside of that, only beat bums, so he shouldn't fight for the belt. It's unfair, right? But he fought for the belt against Oliveira and he won the belt against Oliveira. Now look at him. He's defended the belt three times, twice against Volkanovski, the former pound for pound number one, and once against Dustin Poirier, a dangerous top contender. And I think we're in a similar situation where Umar only has one top five win, mainly beaten bums outside of the Corey win. And because of that, people are complaining about him getting a title shot. Even Marab is complaining about him getting the title shot. But it's not going to matter when he's locked in there with Marab Dvalishvili. It doesn't matter who Umar beat or who he fought. What matters is styles make fights, not resumes. And I think he's a bad matchup for Marab Dvalishvili. And honestly, I might even predict him to win by a finish. I know Umar doesn't really have many KOs on his record, but I could see him chinning Marab. I could see it. And I won't even be surprised if he submits Marab too. Yeah, he does have a annoying chaos style. I agree. He's like prime Colby Covington at bantamweight, back when Colby was good. Jasmine or Myra Silva, who you got? I got Jasmine Devicious. Myra Bueno Silva is breakable. She doesn't like pressure. She's got bad cardio. She folded to the pressure and the volume of Raquel and Myra or Macy. It's not going to be any different against Jazz Devicious. I think Myra Bueno Silva's done. If Tatiana gets her in the clinch against the cage, she's going for a single leg against the cage and getting it, or an upper body trip. I think anyone having to win two top five fights before fighting for the title must be hated by the UFC. Like Magomed. Yeah, I agree. And fans are out here bitching about Dagestani privilege, but does Magomed Ankalaev have Dagestani privilege? Because Ankalaev, he should have been Alex Pereira's next opponent after UFC 300. After Alex knocked out Jamal Hill, the next fight for Alex should have been Ankalaev. But they gave the title shot to Yuri, which never should have happened. That rematch should have never happened. As a fan of Yuri, I wish they never fought again because of what happened. It was an easy, stylistically favorable matchup for Poatan. And then after he beat Yuri, he should have still got a chance to fight Ankalaev. Or Ank should have got a chance to fight Alex, rather, because Ank needs Alex more than Alex needs him. But that's only because Alex is the champion. And Ankalaev needs to fight for the belt. But instead, they gave him Khalil Rountree. And the excuse was Ank only wants to fight in Abu Dhabi, which is not true. Because Ankalaev literally said he'll fight him anywhere. The United States, Middle East, does not freaking matter. The UFC just used that narrative as an excuse to keep Poatan in the winning track, to give him a stylistically favorable matchup. I'm not even saying, let me slow down, I'm talking too fast. I'm not saying that he couldn't have beaten Magomed in October or that he can't beat him if they do go on to fight, but that fight is more risky than the Khalil fight would have been. And Khalil, Yuri, those were like guaranteed wins for Alex. Ankalaev is not a guaranteed win. Ankalaev has a good style to beat Poatan. He's got good striking. I'm not saying he's a better striker than Alex and he would lose in a stand-up battle, but I believe he can keep up with him just enough in the striking before working his takedowns. I think he can use his striking to set up his takedowns set up his striking. I think He mixes it up at light heavyweight better than anyone else Alex has fought apart from Jan Blachowicz. He'll be the only person other than Jan at 205 to actually mix it up against Alex. Not just strike, but I think he will wrestle heavy. And we've seen Jan Blachowicz take down Alex and control Alex. And if he can do that, I think Ankh can do it even better. And I think the UFC doesn't want to run the risk with their golden boy losing. But I think the fight's inevitable. I think that fight's going to happen next. I know people are saying that if Jamal Hill beats Yuri, then he's going to get the next title shot. I don't think so. Even though Jamal is like talking a lot of crap and confronted Alex at the PI, I still think that Ankalaev is going to get the next title shot. I have a feeling he's going to be next in line. We're going to get it over with in the spring of this year. And I want to just get it over with, man. Like, I want to see Ankh get his title shot. And I want to see Alex get tested against another well-rounded mixed martial artist. I'm tired of seeing Alex getting fed these strikers. Where like he's gonna win unless he fights Israel Adesanya, even though we beat him like 3-1. Izzy's like the only striker that Alex fights where it's like it's not guaranteed he'll win because Izzy was winning each fight before getting caught or getting robbed in the first fight and won the fourth fight by knockout. So I think Israel Adesanya is the only guy who has the striking to go up against Poatan, unlike no other. He's the only guy who doesn't need to mix the martial arts to beat Pereira. But no one else is on that striking level to go with Alex like Izzy. So I want to see Alex Pereira fight someone who will actually test his takedown defense. And I want to see if Alex Pereira's takedown defense is going to be good enough to fend off the wrestling of Ankalaev. And if it is, I'm going to be impressed. And that's going to prove that Alex Pereira can beat any style you put in front of him. Because right now, I'm not trying to say his legacy is in question. It's not. But right now, there's a narrative that he's only winning because he's only fighting strikers. I would either like to see Ankh go out there and win the belt like he should have in 2022, or for Alex to go out there and prove that he can beat the wrestlers as well as the strikers. Just as a fan of the sport, without a dog in the race, I just need to see this fight happen because it's good for both men's legacies. It's good for Alex to prove something, and it's also good for Ankh as well because people shit on Ankalaev. They say that he has a terrible resume. If he can beat Pereira, they're going to have to respect him. I blame Ankh for being inactive and letting the chance slip away from his hands. I don't think he let the chance slip from his hands. They could have made that fight in October. They should have made that fight for UFC 307. They should have, and Ankh would have taken that fight in the United States. So I don't think it's his fault. And plus, Ramadan is a factor. That's why he couldn't fight Alex at 300. So you gotta factor those things in as well. Yeah, he didn't look that good against Rakic, but I mean, he didn't wrestle in that fight. He mainly struck, and I think the UFC told him, if you wrestle, we're not giving you a title shot. So I think he wanted to prove that he could be an exciting striker to convince the UFC to give him a title shot. But I mean, he wasn't that exciting on the feet against Rakic. But the thing is about Rakic, even though, okay, Yuri made a Rakic fight exciting, and actually Jan did too. It's kind of hard to have a good fight against Rakic. Like Rakic he has a style where he's good at making fights stale. And he's good at sucking his opponents into boring fights, the boring, dry fights. It's kind of like Ian Gary. It's like it's hard to look good when fighting guys like that. But Alex Pereira, it'll be a different story. Simply because with Alex is gonna take the fight to Ankalaev. It's gonna be more of a barn burner. Let's just put it that way. And I think Ankalaev will actually fight smarter in this fight too. Like I think this fight will be more interesting. Yeah, that's kind of Rakic's game. He kind of neutralizes your offense. So that's why it's hard to look good against him. And then Yuri Prohaska was exciting against him because Yuri Prohaska just doesn't care. Like Yuri will just walk through your punches like a madman, like a crackhead, until he knocks you out or until you knock him out. What? You can't hear anything? Is my connection bad or something? Or that's weird. Can anyone else hear me on the stream? Okay, good. Good. All right. What I was trying to say earlier in this video, because the title of the live is 2024 recap and 2025 off to a good start. I kind of covered how 25 is off to a good start, but yeah, 2024 is not too far behind. Yeah, 2024 is not far behind 2023 because 2024 we had like three not the first pay-per-view of 2024 sucked, but then we had three straight good pay-per-views like UFC 298, UFC 299, UFC 300, and then the whole pay-per-view what am I trying to say? The whole pay-per-view schedule or the whole pay-per-views being good streak kind of calmed down when we hit UFC 301 and 302, and 303 was dog shit. But then the pay-per-views started getting good again by 304. Nah, 306 wasn't that good. That one sucked. 305 was okay. 307 was good, and 308 was a good card as well. So we had at least three good pay-per-views to start the first quarter of the year, and a lot of good fights and a lot of big moments too. I mean, we saw Max Holloway move up a division, dominate Gaethje every single round, and then point to the canvas, and then knock out Gaethje in at the buzzer of the fifth round, which was insane. Alex Pereira having three impressive performances. Ilia Topuria, breaking through as a star, knocking out Vulcan Max in the same year. Like 10 years from now, when I look back at 2024, like I'm going to be saying this was a really good year. And honestly, 2024 might be better than 2023. Like 2023 was legendary in its own right, because we had Makhachev Volkanovski was a great fight. Israel Adesanya knocking out Pereira was insane. Grasso upsetting Shevchenko was insane. Dricus du Plessis upsetting Whitaker was insane. Strickland upsetting Adesanya was insane. Pereira became double champ. So O'Malley became champ. So a lot of good moments also happened in 2023. But I don't know, man. 2024, honestly, did not disappoint. Like I thought, man, we had a good 2023. There's no way we're going to have a good 2024. But I was wrong. And I have a good feeling that we're in for a good 2025. I can just see it. I think the first two pay-per-views of the year are going to be great. I think we're going to have an amazing 311 and 312. And 313 might be a good card as well. I mean, I don't know what they're going to book on that pay-per-view, but I'm hearing that Jones Aspinall is a done deal. Dana White says it's happening. I know they were rumoring it for like July of 2025, but no one's got time to wait that long. Might as well book it for March at UFC 313 because what else are you going to put on there? I mean, you could put Topuria on that pay-per-view, but then you got Ilias saying he's done in the featherweight division and going to lightweight and vacating the featherweight belt. So, I mean, maybe you could put a vacant featherweight title fight at 313 like Volkanovski versus Evloev or Lopez. Maybe that could happen. I don't know. I'm not behind Topuria's decision. I don't know about you. I would like to see Ilia Topuria stay in the featherweight division just for a few more fights. I want to see him fight Volk again, beat Volk again, and then fight Lopez, then fight Evloev. And if he can defend his belt 2-3 more times, then go to lightweight. But I mean, he's saying that he wants to move up because the weight cuts are getting harder, which I mean, it does make sense because Ilya in early 2022, if you remember, He was supposed to fight Charles Jourdain, but then he missed weight. And then because he missed weight, he ended up being pulled from that card. And then he fought again 2 months later against Jai Herbert at lightweight. But then he started cutting back down to featherweight to chase that title. But I mean, if he really can't make the weight anymore, which I highly doubt, I mean, more power to him. There are some fun fights at lightweight. I do like the sound of the Oliveira fight. I think fighting Charles Oliveira and beating Charles, that's a good fight and a good win to solidify his title shot in the lightweight division. Because Makhachev said that he's not interested in fighting Topuria, that if he beats Topuria, fans will cope and say he just beat a featherweight. Kind of like what they did when he beat Volkanovski, which isn't fair because he didn't beat any old featherweight. He beat Volk twice. But I mean, if Ilya can like establish himself as a legit threat in the lightweight division before fighting for the belt against Islam, I think that will catch Islam's interest. I think that will make the Islam fight bigger, and we could be looking at a Topuria versus Makhachev fight in Abu Dhabi in October, which would be pretty cool. I think Topuria should have got 2024 best fighter over Alex. I kind of agree. I mean, it's kind of hard to say because Alex had so many big moments, like 3-0, three big knockouts. Um, like ran through Jamal Hill in like the first round at 300, then started emoting on him like, with those bruh hand emojis. Outclassed, destroyed Yuri Prohaska, which broke my heart as a Yuri fanboy. And then had a fight of the night, one of the best fights of the year against Khalil Rountree. Amazing fight, great fight. So it's kind of hard not to give Alex fight of the year. But then there's also a case for Ilya, because Ilya, first man to beat Volk at featherweight, dethroned him, and then knocked out Max. If he just beat Max by decision, then yeah, Alex Pereira 100% is fighter of the year over him. But knocking out Holloway, which has never been done before, that's fighter of the year material. Topuria fought a number one contender both times. Alex had Ank over there. I don't get that. Are you trying to say that Topuria fought Ank? Or no, what am I saying? Are you trying to say Topuria fought so yeah, I know you're saying he fought two great guys in Vulcan Max, but that you're saying that Alex is lacking that good win. I mean, he did beat two number one contenders in Jamal and Yuri this year, so I don't know. Yeah, he didn't fight Ank, and I think he should definitely fight Ankalaev. That's true. He should definitely fight Ankalaev. And I want him to fight Ank. I want him to prove that he's not ducking the fight and that he's not scared of Ankalaev. And if he goes out there and beats Ank, more power to him. I mean, yeah, he's the number one contender now. Yeah. Well, I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. UFC 311 and 312 are both about champs fighting number one contenders. Yeah, it is. I mean, 311, Islam's fighting the number one guy. Merab's fighting the number 2 guy. And then 312, Weili's fighting her number 1 contender. Dricus is fighting his number 1 contender. And I like it. And I hope all these fights, I hope all 4 of these title fights go through as planned. And it's going to be interesting to see if any of these 4 champs are able to keep their titles. I mean, it would be crazy to start the year with the belt changing hands like 2 to 4 times. Like imagine Umar wins, Arman wins, Tatiana wins, and Strickland wins. But no, I don't know. I do think 1 or 2 of the challengers are going to succeed. I feel like it's going to go 2-2. I think Islam wins, he defends. I think Dricus defends, and I think Merab and Weili lose. But I mean, maybe the champs will go 4-0. I could also see a twist where maybe Dricus du Plessis loses because he's not unbeatable. Arguably lost the last fight, and everyone who beats Israel Adesanya always loses their next fight anyway. Yep, all 4 of them are risky too, and yeah, it's Alex's turn to man up and take the risk. It's his turn to take a fight that's like not guaranteed for him to win. But 2024, speaking of 2024, because 2025 is off to a great start, like I said. Great start, and it's starting off with champs fighting their number 1 contenders. If you notice anything that about 2024, is that's what that year was lacking. So many champions were not fighting their number 1 contenders. So many champions were fighting these guys with undeserved title shots. Sean O'Malley fought Chito Vera, who didn't deserve a title shot. And then who else didn't deserve a title shot? Pantoja fought Steve Erceg, but that makes more sense because the number 1 guy he already beat 2 times, so I can't really complain about that. But it should have been Makayev's fight. But of course, UFC hates Makayev for whatever freaking reason. And then and then Dustin Poirier didn't deserve a title shot against Islam, but they made that fight anyway because Arman Tsarukyan wasn't ready to fight in June, and they needed an opponent for Islam. And then, Israel Adesanya, I don't want to say he was undeserving at the time because I know he already got his immediate rematch against Alex, but you can justify him getting his title shot against DDP because the champ, Dricus, called him out. The champ calls the shots. Him and DDP already had history, so that fight was inevitable. But yeah, arguably Izzy shouldn't have been in there. But I feel like win or lose, like even if Dricus lost at 297, I feel like they still would have made the Izzy fight regardless. And then Khalil Rountree got a title shot. Kaya Zakura, title shot in his UFC debut. Stipe Miocic didn't deserve a title shot at John Jones. So again, 2024 was a year where it was notorious for champs fighting unwarranted contenders. But 2025, already they're doing a better job at giving deserving contenders their rights to fight for the belt. And I hope 2025 can consistently stay that way, where champs only fight deserving top contenders. That's how it always should be. Tati and Umar are getting similar promotions to get a title shot. What's your final prediction? Yeah, I know he's picking Weili. Yep, exactly. And Tatiana is a threat to Zhang Weili by far. She right now is the only interesting matchup in the division for Weili. Everyone else that you put in there against Weili is nothing more than a sacrificial lamb. Verna Jandiroba, bum. Sacrificial lamb, not that good. Don't care what anyone says. The only other opponent who is interesting for Weili in this division is Yan Xiaonan, because of how well she did in that fight and because she's got better striking. But the problem is the takedown defense. Like Yan Xiaonan versus Wei Li gives me Nunes versus Duranami vibes because of everyone at women's bantamweight at that time. Germaine was like the only one who was a better striker than Amanda Nunes and was the only one who could beat her standing, but couldn't stop the takedowns in 2 fights. And then in this fight, Wei Li and Yan. Yan is like the only one at strawweight now that Rose left, who's a better striker than Wei Li, but doesn't have the takedown defense to stop Wei Li's wrestling game. And then Wei Li fighting Suarez is kind of like if Amanda Nunes stayed and fought Kayla Harrison. And that she will do. Make it a grappling match. I don't get how the Nina fight indicates it's not good. Nina Ansaroff didn't even rock her. And also, Tatiana Suarez is Mexican. Mexicans aren't chinny, so I think she's going to have a good chin. And I think Wei Li's power is a little bit overrated anyway. I mean, yeah, she knocked out Jessica, but that's because Jessica Andrade literally charged at her. So Wei Li was able to use her momentum against her. Tatiana Suarez is not going to engage in a slugfest like an idiot against Zhang Wei Li. When you're fighting technical and smart and kind of keeping your distance and keeping your range, Wei Li has a tough time finding that kill shot. So unless Tatiana just stands in the pocket and trades, I don't really see her getting dropped like that. And why do you say that? The Asians got better chins than Mexicans. But Wei Li having a chin in this fight's not going to matter. It's not going to matter when she's being put on her back and being out grappled. Tatiana's chin is going to matter because she might need it because Wei Li in moments, yeah, might hit her. But I wouldn't say, oh, her chin's untested. She might get knocked out. Like, nah. I think her chin's going to be fine. And her defense is also very underrated, too. Like, Tatiana's very good at not getting hit too clean. She's got very good defense in the stand-up. And she barely gets hit in her fights. The most she got hit was the Nina fight, and that's because she was injured. And I think she has good defense. She had good defense in 2023, and she has good defense going into 2025. I don't think that's going to change. He thinks that Wei Li's just going to pop up just like that, but it's not going to happen. I think Wei Li has to not get taken down in this fight. I thought she moved very well and was landing a lot of good kicks at range and was making Jessica Andrade miss a lot. Anyone who thinks that Tatiana looked washed in that fight, they're just delusional. Yeah, lie down and rest and then get held down and controlled and dominated. Sounds like a great plan. But, February 8th can't come soon enough. I cannot wait to get this fight over with so all the talking can be done and we can finally find out who's better between Tatiana and Wei Li. I was almost at Jessica. Yeah, if Wei Li gives up her back, she's going to get choked out. You do not want to give up your back to Tatiana Suarez. That is a big no-no. That is a big no-no right there. Like, no matter what, whatever she does, she better not turn over and give up her back to Tatiana. That is a death sentence. My point is, Weili never had a big, strong wrestler on top of her. Nope. She had Rose on top of her, scrawny Rose on top of her, and she couldn't get up. Yeah, she had Carla on top of her and she reversed her, but Carla's small and weak. Tatiana's big and strong and a way better wrestler. And if she tries to stand up and give up her back to Tatiana, she's screwed. She's cooked. I need to watch that fight again. And I kind of wonder what would have happened if Weili would have lost that fight. I'm glad she didn't, because I was worried that Weili would lose. Because if she did, they would have done an immediate rematch, and then Tatiana wouldn't get a title shot. So it's better that Weili won that fight. Nope, she's gonna hold position. I think RC is starting to see the light. He's starting to see what we see. I mean, Tatiana's not going to survive the striking. If Weili is able to force a consistent striking match, stay off the mat throughout almost every single round, then yeah, she'll win the fight. But we're just going to have to see when the fight goes down. We'll find out February the 8th. Yep, she gave up her back, and Tatiana would have jumped on her neck and got a choke. 100%. I don't know why. I feel like if this fight goes down, no pullout happens, I think Tatiana's going to choke her unconscious. I just can't unsee that. Like, I can see Tatiana dominating her for a few rounds, playing with her for a few rounds on the ground, and then in one moment, she either gets an arm triangle or she gets the back and gets a rear naked, and the commentators are freaking out, and then Weili, like, goes limp, and the ref, like, feels her arm and then stops the fight. And then Tatiana, like, screaming for joy because she finally did it, finally became the champion. I can't unsee that happening. I always get what you're seeing, DJ. I have watched lots of tape to guess what's happening. Yeah, and tape study is always good. I mean, I watch a lot of tape as well. It can be difficult though to keep up with so much footage because it's very time consuming, but it definitely does help strengthen your knowledge. I do agree. And why did her wrestling surprise you against Montana De La Rosa? Because I think we all expected her to dominate with her wrestling in that fight. It felt pretty obvious that that's what would happen. So I don't see why we would be surprised. I could see her gassing out with a lot of grappling against Tatiana. That might happen. I mean, she got tired grappling with Rose too, and if she does get tired wrestling with Tatiana, then yeah, it's only going to get worse from here. From the first round all the way to the second, third, it's not going to get better for her if her cardio can't hold up from so much grappling. Yeah, because Tatiana is a more competent wrestler, and Montana De La Rosa is not a wrestler, so it shouldn't be a surprise that Montana couldn't take her down. Tatiana has 100% takedown defense. And of all, if anyone is ever taking her down, Montana De La Rosa was never going to be the one to do it. Exactly. And that's exactly how I think she'll reverse any takedown attempt from Wei Li. If Wei Li tries anything like that, she's going to get reversed and end up on her back and controlled. There's levels to wrestling. Yeah, Montana's bigger and good wrestler, but Tati's just too much in that world. Exactly, exactly. Yeah, and those two takedowns are gonna get her in trouble, and those are gonna be the two moments that get her on her back. And I could see a reality where like Whaley gets taken down because she tries to wrestle, and then it leads to her getting finished, and then the fans are gonna cope saying she only lost because she tried to wrestle with Tatiana and showed low IQ, but a rematch will be different. I could easily see that happening. I could just see it right now. And speaking of catching kicks, Whaley's always throwing kicks, always throwing that side kick. And I could easily see Tatiana catching that kick and throwing her on her back. That's another way that Tatiana can get a takedown. Whaley's got to be very careful when throwing her kicks. I know she's got fast kicks, and the speed of those kicks make it hard to catch them, but I could totally see Tatiana catching a kick and getting her on her back. Oh, and if she tries to take down Tatiana through catching a kick, it's not going to matter because she won't get the takedown. She'll get in close and then she'll get thrown on her back. And if she does get a takedown, Tatiana will only get right back to her feet and probably reverse her. Ma'am, we're going to go on break right now. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I'll be right back. Just hang in there, guys. All right, sorry about that, guys. I just had to rush to the washroom, but I'm back. Okay, let me see who's in the interview. And if she jumps Gilly on Whaley, Whaley's not popping her neck out. I'll be very surprised if she escapes, and I'll be like, shoot, if she gets out of that and ends up on top of Tatiana, it's not going to be good. But I don't think that's happening. No one submitted Whaley yet, but there's a first time for everything, and I think that Tatiana is going to be the first to do it. Yeah, more aggressive than Rose on the ground, and that's more gonna play against Whaley because she can control you while posturing up and landing ground and pound. Is that Mike Finch interview recent? Yeah, Lemos tried the ninja choke, and there I already explained why it didn't work for her, but why it might work for Tatiana. And I don't see how Tatiana Suarez is delusional. She just believes in herself, and it is possible. Her beating Wei Li, it's a realistic outcome. It could happen. Yep, way better comparison, but it's not just the jujitsu, it's the wrestling. Like I said earlier in this live, the reason why Amanda Lemos did not complete that submission is because she gave up her back. Not gave up her back, but she gave up bottom position to get the choke. I mean, she jumped necktie to defend the takedown out of desperation, but with her being on bottom and Whaley being competent from the top position, the choke wasn't in that tight, and Whaley was able to stay out of the full guard and pass into half guard from what I or from side. She was able to pass half guard into side control. That gave her more space to breathe and more of an ability to get out. Whereas against someone like Tatiana with her level of wrestling, I think she can stack up on top of Wei Li while holding her in that guillotine. Yeah, I'm gonna check it out. Yeah, but I can't wait to get this fight over with, just like we got Rose versus Wei Li over with. Where I said for 2 years that Rose would beat Wei Li, and it happened. Like I've said for 2 years, Tatiana would beat Wei Li, and it's happening. So the cycle's just going to repeat itself here, and I can't wait. Wei Li will lose, and then her fans will see that she's not so unbeatable after all. But I'm gonna watch like Whaley's last three fights again. I'm gonna watch her versus Carla. I'm gonna watch her versus Lemos and Yan Xiaonan. Then I'm gonna start watching some footage on Tatiana Suarez as well. Yeah, great minds think alike until now, of course. But yeah, I know Rose 2 years ago was a better, or 2, 3 years ago was better, more motivated. Rose now sucks. Rose at flyweight's not as good as she was at strawweight. And I don't know why she chose to leave divisions. I mean, she explained why, but I just can't accept or respect her reasoning. Like, oh, because I already won the belt twice, I already beat Whaley twice. There's nothing left for me at strawweight, which is the most delusional thing to say ever. She has 2 wins over the champion. All she would have needed was one more win at strawweight to get back in title contention, and then she could have got a title shot, and she could have maybe won the belt back against Zhang. could have happened, and she kind of ruined that for herself. And instead, decide to take bad matchups up a division and lose. And the only fights that she was able to win in flyweight were against scrubs like Rebus and Cortez. I think she would have lost to Macy Barber. She's never beaten any good top contender in the flyweight division, and I don't think she ever will. Are you asking to hop on the live? I remember Prime Joanna ducked Tatiana for an interim title whenever Rose was injured. When was this? When are you talking about, like 2018? I know that that fight was offered and Tatiana declined, but I don't think they were going to make Tatiana versus Joanna for an interim title. If anyone was getting an interim title shot, it was Jessica, because Jessica was always going to be next in line for the belt, regardless. From what I remember is in March 2020, or sorry, March 2019, the UFC wanted to make Tatiana versus Joanna, and then they wanted to make it for UFC 238, but Joanna Jędrzejczyk herself declined the fight because she wanted to take a vacation and just take time off. That's what I remember. But could you imagine though if Joanna would have said yes to Tatiana in June 2019? Man, Joanna is way better than Nina, and I think she might have beaten Tatiana that night. That version of Tatiana fought Joanna. If we're talking the Joanna who fought Wei Li, she's beating Tatiana Suarez. That version of Tatiana. Like Tatiana might get her down, but then might not be able to do anything with it, and then Joanna would just get back up and outstrike her. I wish they could have done that fight, but I think the fight that they should have made in 2019, the beginning of the year, it should have been Jessica Andrade versus Tatiana Suarez. Like, I remember the UFC actually wanted to make Rose versus Jessica for January 19th in the Barclays Center, the first ever ESPN fight night. But they could have just made Tatiana versus Jessica headline that fight night card. They could have just done that. And then the winner of that fights Rose later on in the year. That would have made more sense, but doesn't matter because Tatiana was always going to get injured. So it would have sucked if Jessica would have lost to Tatiana, lost to someone who wasn't even going to fight for the title later anyway, because then that would be a complete waste of time. Who else would fight Rose? I mean, Rose would probably stay the champion because then she'd get an easier stylistic matchup for herself. They probably would have made Rose versus Waterson 2 or something. I get how people think Joanna's takedown the fence better than Wei Li, but in 2022, Wei Li out wrestled Joanna bad. Things are strange sometimes. Well, in 2022, Joanna was coming off a 2.5 year layoff, and was far removed from her prime, not motivated anymore, not the same Joanna Jędrzejczyk. She was mentally and physically checked out, so that's why she was easily getting taken down and destroyed on the ground by Zhang Wei Li. And Zhang also improved her wrestling. Let's not forget that. But in 2020, Joanna showed way better takedown defense against Zhang, but also Zhang's wrestling wasn't as good back then. But also, I just think back then, Wei Li was better at defending takedown. Or, sorry, Joanna was better at defending takedowns and getting up. I think the inactivity had a lot to do with it because Joanna just wasn't training. She was too busy modeling for Instagram and not actually in the gym fighting or training, sorry. It was after the Carla fight. Remember, Tati was out after the Carla fight because nobody would fight her, so she had to sit out. Yep, I remember that. And I remember when the UFC scrapped Joanna versus Valentina to make Val versus Eubanks, but then they ended up just going with Joanna Val. I think the UFC was close to making Joanna versus Suarez at UFC 231, but then when Valentina Joanna was back on, um, Tatiana ended up sitting out. But I think the UFC should have just made Tatiana versus Jessica because the UFC almost forced Tatiana to fight Verna, so they could have easily forced Jessica into another fight. And I do think that Tatiana Andrade in 2019 made a lot of sense and was the perfect number one contender fight. I also think because of I think Joanna's takedowns only hold up against smaller wrestlers like Carla and Andrade. The length helps her with her takedown defense. So you think that Tatiana would have had better luck imposing her wrestling because she's just as long and as tall as Joanna? Because that could actually make sense. Like a lot of sense, actually. Yeah, she doesn't have that size or strength advantage against Zhang, and definitely would not have that against Tatiana Suarez. Didn't have that against Valentina, and Valentina took her down like what 6 to 8 times, I think. I mean, she was able to avoid damage and get up from the takedowns, but still. So Val went like 5 for 14 on takedowns against Ioane and Jacek. Just looking at the stats right now. If you take her down, the length from her knees helps her get back up. Also, Michelle Watterson almost choked out Joanna. So I wonder what would have happened if Tatiana would have got her down and got her back like that. Definitely. Like a healthy Tatiana Suarez, I could see beating a healthy Prime Ioane and Jacek. But if anyone is beating Tatiana, it's Prime Ioane and Jacek, I believe. Also, a motivated Rose in the strawweight division, I think would have a chance against Tatiana Suarez because Rose has length, she's got the footwork, keeps distance well, and also is good off her back too. And I think the way to beat Tatiana Suarez, you can't be a short range power striker like Jessica or Wei Lee. You have to be a long distance sniper with good footwork and distance management like Rose or Joanna. Because someone like that will give problems to Tatiana. If Tatiana has to chase you down to get her takedowns, um, and you're good at moving away and you're constantly moving, it's gonna make it hard for Tatiana to properly time a takedown. And it's gonna be harder for her to get a hold of you to get her takedowns. Whereas someone short and stocky like Wei Lee or Jessica, I think it's easier for her because Wei Lee doesn't move her feet all that much. I mean, she does have good footwork, but not Rose level. She's not moving laterally. She moves linearly, back and forth in a straight line, mainly goes forward, and strikes in close range that kind of plays into Wei Lee's or to Tatiana's style. Someone like a Prime Joanna or a motivated strawweight Rose, I think would pose problems to Tatiana Suarez. I mean, I still think Tatiana would beat Rose, even at her best at strawweight, but it would be a harder fight than the Wei Lee fight, I believe. Oh yeah, that was like a Kamzat Chimaev, Robert Whitaker esque performance. The Tatiana Grasso performance. I want to argue with DJC on Andrade versus Tatiana on Andrade's takedown defense. All right, say what you can just say then about her takedown defense. Like, I think you already made your point though. You said the reason why her takedown defense isn't or the reason why her takedown defense is good because she's short and stocky, but she doesn't have the technique. And I think I already kind of agreed with that. Whaley and Tatiana met in a sauna when? I would let you on the live, but it's a little late in the live, and I'm not gonna be on here like much longer. So, but be sure to tune in to my next one though, and I'll definitely have a more open session where people can hop in, and we can debate some stuff. I mean, I know Whaley's an inch shorter, but Whaley has like short limbs. She's got short arms, short legs, and she's got a short range striking style based off the way she's physically proportioned. The way she's physically built and statured, she has to fight you on the inside. She has to get close to you. She can't strike you at a range like Joanna or a Rose. And I think to give Tatiana trouble, you have to strike her at a range and move on the outside. Going towards her is only going to play into her game. April UFC 300 fight week. I mean, that's interesting that they met in the sauna. But I also know that Whaley's also been spying on her in the Performance Institute as well. Whaley recalling Tatiana having broader shoulders and thinner legs. That's funny. I mean, that is kind of funny. Tatiana does have a build like that. She does have thin legs and a big upper body. She's kind of got that Kamaru Usman build, like a big upper body but skinny shins. Yep, John Jones has that physique as well. Big upper body, skinny legs. Is that a wrestler's physique though? Because I know there's other wrestlers who have thick legs, like Colby Covington, who's fighting tonight, thick legs. Blades has thick legs. Chris Weidman in his prime before he became washed, thick-legged wrestler, like thick calves. I mean to say, Chael Sonnen. Yeah, she's got like thin shins, but thick thighs. But Tatiana is like very physically fit though. She was like, I don't think she's much bigger. The shoulders maybe make her look bigger. Okay, interesting description. Well, she'll feel that physical presence when she's in the octagon with her, and she'll probably uh, have something different to say after she loses. So yeah, I know Tatiana's big. She's big for the division. I've been knowing she walks around at 135. Um, I don't know. I don't think she can take her down, but I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if she did, but I don't think she can keep her down if she does get her down. And I think trying to impose that wrestling or trying to wrestle with Tatiana is a risky game to play. So maybe she can get like maybe one takedown, then that's it. Wait. Oh, okay. You're talking about when she fought Carla, she was like 135 pounds. Makes sense. They're both big girls for the division. They both have a lot of weight to cut. Drop the name of that interview again that Tatiana did so I can watch it. What's that interview you were telling me about? Because I want to watch it after this live. So just drop the name of that interview where she talked about diving guillotine. Okay, I'm back in. I'm back in. Okay, that was really weird. I don't know what the heck happened there. I don't know what happened. I just saw I saw Safari on my phone refresh, and the next thing you know, I'm not in the live. I'm like, oh no, I'm out of my own live. How do I get back in? But thank God I'm back in this live. Oh, Whaley came to her training camp for UFC Nashville or something like that. Yeah, I'm really sorry about that, guys. I did not expect that to happen. Wait, is it that 14-minute interview like from 1 year ago? Did she do like two Mike Finch interviews or just one? Is it the 14-minute interview though from like last year? Okay, yeah, I've seen that one already. Actually, I've already watched that, but I might revisit it though. I might take a look. I might take a look back at that. And there's a few other Tatiana interviews I want to watch too. I'm seeing okay, I already watched the TMZ one from 7 months ago. There's one with that fat guy who Colby always asked to do 10. Oh, John Morgan, that dude. Yeah. I already watched the interview with Helen Yee. Oh, and I see Coach Sheldon Harrison's video. I'm gonna watch his video on the fight. I want to see what he has to say about that fight. But it's so crazy how long it took for this fight to happen. This fight literally should have happened this year. Should not have taken this long. So it would suck if Tatiana pulled out because then if she does, the fight's never happening. Probably they'll give Tatiana Verna and they won't reschedule Tatiana's title shot. So it's do or die. No more pullouts. No more injuries. None of that. Show up for the biggest fight of your life, which I think she will. I think of all fights that she's had scheduled that she didn't show up to, this is the one time she's not pulling out. This is the biggest fight of her career, of her life, fighting for the world title against the giant who slayed other giants. There's no way the universe, fate has it, where she's not going to make it to the fight. I don't care what anyone says. Yeah, and I'm glad. You were right. You were right. I'm glad Whaley um, finally took this fight. I'm glad. She said, when I get into scrambles, no one is better than me, and I mean nobody. She will not beat me in the grappling department. Nope, she will not. I think she'll try to test it out, and she's gonna come soon to regret it and be like, shit, I should have not tried to take her down. Now I'm on my back and I can't get up. Whaley was having a headache after denied the title shot, the 125 title shot after 306. Okay, how is the headache an excuse? A headache is something that can be healed overnight with a good night's sleep. How did a headache mean she couldn't fight again before the end of the year? That's stupid. That's fucking stupid. And 306 was also the card that Tatiana called her out for, and she didn't take that fight with her. I mean, she didn't need to fight her in Noche UFC, but she should have. The fact that Weili's fighting in Australia, she should have fought in Australia at UFC 305 against Tatiana in the co-main event to Israel Adesanya versus Dricus du Plessis. That could have happened in Australia in August instead of in Australia in February. I don't know why my voice keeps breaking up. I need more water, man. Oh, you just mean she was just pissed after she was denied. That makes sense, because I know she wanted to be double champ. But again, fate had other plans. Suarez, she has to beat Tatiana before she moves up. If she beats Tatiana, then she can go and fight for another belt. But until then, she must beat Tatiana first. She actually fought her fans online. That's interesting. Was she fighting with them in Chinese or something? That's funny. But anyway, I'm a bounce from this live now. It's been about 2 hours. Yeah. But catch me on the next one, an RCDA, or DAI. Like, tune in for my next live. I hope you're subscribed. I'll be going live soon, and I'll leave a link for you to jump in, and then we can talk. All right. Peace.